If you were to stand by in most doctors' offices today and listen to the presenting complaint of the patient, you would find that in many instances, maybe the majority of times, the patient would say, "I have an allergy, doctor. Is there something you can do for me?" Well, there are some things that can be done for people with allergies, and we'd like to talk about some of these issues in this program, so we hope you'll be with us during it.
The following program presents principles designed to promote good health and is not intended to take the place of personalized professional care. The opinions and ideas expressed are those of the speaker. Viewers are encouraged to draw their own conclusions about the information presented. Welcome to Help Yourself to Health with Dr. Agatha Thrash of Uchee Pines Institute. And now, here's your host, Dr. Thrash.
A host of disorders are associated with a sensitivity or an allergy. There are a number of these that if you will pay very close attention to some very common things, some very simple things, you will find that your ability to live successfully in life with good health and being happy will be very much better than if you didn't know these very simple things, such as overweight being a sensitivity or an allergic reaction. Not everybody is agreeing with that statement, but there are enough people, I think, who have proven that one of the reasons why they're overweight is because they're addicted to a food. Now, an addiction to a food almost always means that the person has a sensitivity to that food. Let us say that a person is just loves sweets. They are so into sweets that they would rather die than not have their sweet things for their meals. You take the sweet things away for, say, 3 months, and they never even think of them again unless they see them. When they see them, then they remember, I used to be addicted to that, and they want to have it again. Just like with drug addiction, which is also to some degree a sensitivity, a capturing of the immune system so that the immune system becomes unable to resist or to tell the mind that it should resist that particular drug. So if you know someone who is overweight or you yourself struggle with a weight problem, try eliminating some of those favorite foods that you have, that food that you think, I just couldn't live happily without this food. Eliminate that and see if that simple thing does not make it so that you can live happily in life. Don't forget that there are so many foods that you will not go hungry and you will not come to not enjoy your food. If you lived in one country as compared to living in another, you would find that often you would love the foods served in that country. If you move to another country, you adopt their lifestyle, their diet, you will find that you love the food served in that country, maybe after a little adjustment period. So give yourself the opportunity to get rid of those foods to which you're sensitive or to which you're allergic and see if that doesn't help you with your weight. Now, I have Dr. Don Miller with me today, and he is going to talk about a very prominent, fortunately not highly common disease called asthma. Dr. Miller, tell us about asthma.
It may not be highly common, but it's becoming more common. In the last decade, it's gone up by 1/3. It's a major problem for people who have it, and it's becoming a major problem in really developed countries. It's not so much a problem in countries that are not developed, because there are certain things about asthma that are going to be causing asthma in lifestyle. Now, there's two types of asthma we'll start off with. There's intrinsic and there's extrinsic. The extrinsic is basically from an outside source. It could be from a pollutant of some sort, from pollen, from animal dander, from the food that you eat. And then there's intrinsic asthma, which could be caused by emotional upset, an infection, exercise, cold breeze in the face. Various things can cause it, but basically has nothing to do with an allergic reaction to something else. but we're going to see that both of them basically have the same reaction on the body. It's going to cause a swelling of the bronchial tree, basically a muscle tightening of the little bronchi through which the air travels, and plus the mucus becomes thicker in there. And a person has a hard time exhaling. They can inhale pretty well okay, but it's exhaling that where they get their problem. Now, there's a few things we can do for a person who's having, who has asthma, and one is we need to lower what we call the allergy threshold, because 80% of people are extrinsic asthmatics. Basically means that something from the outside, they're allergic to something out there, and so what we want to do is lower that threshold. We have various thresholds that we go through in life. We have a thing called the pain threshold. Some people, just looking at something painful makes them hurt. I remember when I was a child when the doctors used to make home calls and I'd be sick, he'd come in and it seems like his favorite thing was to open up that big black bag and pull out that big long needle. And as soon as I saw the needle, I hurt. I mean, I started crying because I knew it was going to hurt me. And so that's a threshold. Some people's threshold's very high. They can take a lot. Same thing with allergies. There are some people who, and it's a blessing of God, that their immune systems are so strong, their bodies are so strong that they aren't allergic to very many things. I have always fallen in that class. Now, as you get older, you start to lose some of this immunity. Let's take something like poison ivy. Never been allergic to that stuff. And foods. I don't know of anything that I am allergic to. And so we need to lower, though, if we are allergic to things, our allergic threshold. So if you're allergic to dust and to animal dander and to cockroaches, the little dander that they live along, that's one of the big causes. Matter of fact, they find that many children growing up in areas where there's lots of cockroaches have asthma, and they're tracing it to all those little black things you see in your closets. That can be a very prolific cause of the asthma in children. So we lower that threshold as much as possible. There are a few other things that we can do. One is we need to stay well hydrated. Now, mucus is in our lungs on purpose. It covers the little cilia, and basically if we breathe something in that got past the hairs in our nose and all the protections and it gets down into our lungs, it sticks to this mucus, and the cilia is always sweeping it up, and we end up either expectorating it, spitting it out, or we swallow these different things. But it can become very, very thick, and we need to drink plenty of water to keep it from getting so thick. Another thing that we can do if a person has asthma is teach them to play a wind instrument. Blowing causes some back pressure, and it causes the bronchial tree to sort of expand a little bit. And so somebody who learning to play the trumpet or the tuba or some type of instrument, that get them a set of bagpipes, that'll really open it up. It'll open up that bronchial tree. But let's say somebody's getting ready to have an asthmatic attack. They can take their hand and they can put their lips to their hand and have a very small hole in your fist and blow very hard. That gives some back pressure and can expand it. Or have them blow up a balloon or blow through a straw. A person who has asthma needs to learn how to breathe deeply and should practice drawing air through the nose and then blowing it out through pursed lips, and see how long they can blow it out. And they need to make sure that they are completely exhaling all the air they have in there. This is going to give you some good lung health anyway, and it will help to keep those muscles that surround the bronchi strong and supple and keep them expanding out. There's other things that we can do. Garlic is probably, bar none, the best herb that you can take for an asthma person, and especially an asthma attack. Someone going into an asthma attack, have them make, or have somebody make them a cup of garlic tea. Just take some hot water, chop up a cup of garlic in there, put it in the water, stir it up, and have them drink it. Now often, and that's all you have, it's just water and garlic. Often that will cause the gag response, and sometimes to the point of throwing up. Now if you've ever regurgitated, ever thrown up, you know what happens when you do. Once it's all out, you're going to find that you have a runny nose and watery eyes. This is a reaction the body goes through, which is a perfect reaction for somebody who is having an asthma attack. Throwing up loosens up the secretions of the of the lungs and of the body and allows things to flow more freely. The nice thing about garlic, and you'll find this out, just take a piece of garlic, and after you've eaten it, when do you first know, or somebody else first know that you've eaten it? It's expressed through the mouth. And so as you take the garlic, it expresses itself through the lungs, which is what you're smelling when a person breathes out. And so it's very good for the lungs. Another very good herb is mullein, M-U-L-L-E-I-N. A person should be drinking mullein tea if they're having an asthma attack. Another thing, an excellent treatment for someone having an asthma attack, I'm going to give you two simple treatments. One, you apply hot to the back of the neck and hot to the chest at the same time. But the very best one, and I heard a doctor talking about this one time, her son was an asthmatic and he was having a severe asthma attack to the point where she could no longer pick up lung sounds in his breathing. He was getting some air in there, but he was in serious condition. She laid him down on the bed with his head hanging over, put a basin on the floor under his head, and then got a gallon of cold water, held it about 2 feet above his head, and slowly poured it so it hit the nape of his neck, and because his head was hanging down, it ran over the back of the head, down over the forehead, and into the basin on the floor, pouring it slowly, so it took between 60 and 90 seconds for this water to be completely poured out of this gallon jug. And it reversed the asthmatic attack. And so simple things that you can do if you're having an asthma attack. It's a serious problem. Some people even die of an asthma attack, and so know what to do. Get the garlic out, do the cold water, do the fomentations, open up that bronchial tree, blow in your hand, and send a prayer upstairs. And Dr. Thrash, I've seen this happen, and I've seen it work for people.
Yes, we're very confident that these things can help. One of the things that has increased the death rate from asthma, the standard people feel that the main thing has been the increase in the great variety of drugs used for asthma. So not necessarily that asthma is getting so much worse intrinsically, but just that it's being treated in ways that put such a stress on the body that can be the thing that increases the death rate. Now, there are ways that you can test yourself for allergies. One of the best ways is the elimination and challenge diet. There is another one called the pulse test. I don't know if it works or not. It seems to work, but it may not work for you. Here is the way that it's done. You will see immediately why it's not so popular. A person sits for 10 minutes and is at rest before they begin their meal. And the meal is going to be of just one item. So after the 10 minutes are up, then with a stopwatch preferably, but if not, for 1 full minute using a watch with a second hand, test what the pulse rate is and write it down. Then the single food is eaten. The whole meal is made of that single food, nothing else. Then at 15 minutes after beginning eating that food, take the pulse again, using preferably a stopwatch. Then at 30 minutes, then at 60 minutes. Then the person's pulse rates, all three of these, are checked to see if there is an elevation in the pulse rate. If there is an elevation of 10 points, then of more than 10 points, then that food is one that probably is causing you to have an allergy to it. Now, there are so many things that can interfere. If you get excited during the meal, if somebody comes to visit during the meal, if you have to get up and get something for someone else during the meal, then that's going to make you so that you're not in the resting state. Most people will not be very happy to learn that they can only have one food at a meal. And if they check themselves in this way, they only want to do one of these per week. Well, that stretches it out quite a long time. The elimination and challenge diet is the one that I use almost all the time, and it's very simple to use, maybe not any more acceptable to the patient. Well, I guess it is, a good bit more acceptable than the pulse test, eating only a single food. But what happens is that a list of foods that are known to be allergenic types of foods, they of course begin with dairy products, since that's the food that causes more allergies and disabilities than any other food that we eat. It causes 60% of them, just hands down. Then the second one is coffee, tea, colas, and chocolate. The third is citrus fruits and juices, and so forth. You can get a list of them from any allergist who is practicing today, or you can get one from a library or from the internet. You can also get it from our website, which you can obtain by simply logging on to 3abn.org, and then you find Uchee Pines and click on that, ucheepines.org, and we will be happy to provide that for you. Then once the symptoms of the allergy have gone away, then the person starts adding back a food, one every 5 to 7 days, until you run across a food that makes your symptoms come back. Once the symptom comes back, then you start making a list and wait until the symptom, you eliminate whatever food it was that caused it. Then wait until your symptoms have gone, add another food back. And you do this, keep on doing this, until you have discovered all those foods that cause you to have a problem. We find this to be the most reliable and essentially the most simple way of finding those foods to which one is allergic. Now always somebody asks, well, I want to find those foods that I'm allergic to so that I can take a shot so that I won't have it anymore. If you know a shot like that, that's good, but most people are not able to find such a shot. Avoidance is still the very most important remedy for allergies. So until you know some better method, then the safest, we don't know about the safety of these shots, the safest method, and also that one that is the most likely to bring you success, is the elimination and challenge diet. Now, Dr. Miller is going to talk about the subject of hay fever, which is another very common cause of allergies.
It's a common cause of allergies, and I would say at the onset, it's not so much to do with hay, and it's not so much to do with fever. It's really, it's another, I mean, it can have to do with hay because hay produces pollen, produces dust, but fever is not usually one of the symptoms. You've got a reddening of the eyes, you've got running of the nose, you've got itching and scratching and sneezing and dripping, and it's just not a very good experience. And some people really suffer with this particular problem. It's really an allergic rhinitis. It's something happening in the nose, and it's normally caused by pollens or molds that are in the air. I've known people who've walked into basements that were completely moldy and gotten an attack just from taking one breath in the basement. We got to be careful where we're at. And so, and it's often seasonal. And what seasons? Usually going to be in the spring and in the fall when the pollens are most likely to be in the air. Living down in Alabama where we are, in the springtime, our cars will be yellow. Puddles will be yellow with the pollen coming from the pine trees. And people who are allergic to that particular pollen have a miserable time for that 2 or 3 week period of time, and then it's gone. Now, if a person seems to have this problem all the time, then it could be another cause. It could be related to some food that they're eating. It could be related to something that they have in their home, like an animal or other things like this. So what they need to do is try to ferret out. If you have hay fever, what we call hay fever, all the time, find out what it is. It could be the feathers in your pillow. It could be the dust on your floor. Find out what these things are and eliminate them. I've already talked about the allergy threshold. Find out what yours is. Now, the thing about the allergy threshold is our immune systems are able to endure so much. And the stronger we make our immune system, the less we're going to have allergic reactions to foods and other things in our environment, because you are not going to be able to avoid dust. You're not going to be able to avoid pollen unless you live in a bubble, and I don't recommend that as a good place to live. You're out in the world, learn how to get your body well. But there are some simple things that you can do for this thing. Now, ragweed is the 75% responsible for hay fevers, and so during ragweed season, maybe it is best to try to stay upwind of the ragweed, although it's going to be all over the place in many places that you are. Emotions can also precipitate a hay fever reaction, and so try to keep your emotions under control. You know, we worry about things and we fret about things and we get angry about things. We need to learn to sit there and just rest in the Lord and say, Lord, I can't handle this problem. It's much too big with me. He says, come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I'll give you rest. Rest from your worries, your cares, your troubles, your angers. He says, I'll take all of these on myself. You just take my yoke. And I think these are good suggestions that you can do. You need to be on a good diet, and that's without saying. If we're on a good, healthy diet, we strengthen our immune system, we strengthen our bodies to be able to ward off some of these vicious attacks by our environments today. Grape seed extract, a very good remedy that you can take. It's a thing you can buy in a health food store. It has a lot of bioflavonoids and anti-allergenic properties in there. And what they do is they strengthen the cell walls of your basophils and your mast cells. Now these are the ones that when they burst open, they release allergic chemicals. If we can strengthen those cells, we won't have so much of an allergic reaction. So grapeseed extract is very, very good for someone who has these problems. I'd recommend if you're getting ready to suffer with it or are suffering with it, give it a try. It can't hurt to try it. Garlic, extremely good for congestion. You can take garlic tea, you can just chop it up and eat it. However you want to take it, it will help with allergic reactions. Drink plenty of water, get plenty of exercise, and if you're having a particularly bad attack, trying a hot foot bath, putting your feet in hot water, we'll sit there and by just derivation, draw blood down from the upper part of the body, relieving congestion in the face, in your nose area, and in the chest, and you can find some good results just from something as simple as a hot foot bath. I like God's simple remedies, Dr. Thrash.
Yes, they're not only simple, but they're inexpensive. One of the problems that we associate with an allergy is that of eczema. It often comes on the hand, so that the entire hand, the back of the hand and the front of the hand, or the palm of the hand may be involved in it, and it starts out with tiny little cracks in the skin that follow the skin lines, as well on the palm as on the backside, and these little cracks can be widened by scratching, and they are itchy, so the person scratches, that widens the little cracks, and then you get a red rash too. And the little cracks may actually become you're oblivious to the little cracks because they have been buried in the rash that comes following it. So you don't really realize that what you have done has caused the rash. So here is what you must do. If the eczema on the hands is caused by something that you are contacting every day, such as dishwater or cleaning agents or just water with the with the purifying agents in it that come from the municipal water supply where you get your water, these things can cause an eczema in some people. So if they keep the hands covered with Vaseline, that will help to a large degree to get rid of the eczema. This is one of the treatments of choice. When you have the eczema with these, sometimes they will weep in these little cracks. So take a lump of Vaseline just about the size of a large bean. Put that in the hand and then wet the hand with a little water and then rub it around like that. And it takes a good bit of effort to do that because friction develops once you try to emulsify it with the water. And so your hands don't slide as nicely as they do with a hand lotion. Once you have made an emulsion, which will look sort of milky on the hands, then you smooth that over the hands in the direction of the skin lines, not against the skin lines, which would open up these little cracks again. So you need to be careful about that point. Then there are some things that you can take in the way of supplements. Bee pollen is one of those. Ashwagandha is one of the things that you can take that can be very helpful. Quercetin, which is common in onions, very good constituent of onions, that can also be very helpful. Of course, stinging nettle, one of the herbs we always use for any kind of allergy, for hay fever, for any allergy, for an addiction such as an addiction to foods or whatever, we always use stinging nettle. That's probably, when you hear allergy, immediately you should think stinging nettle. Then cat's claw and coleus, a number of herbs that can be used for eczema. Now, painful menstruation is thought by many people to be due to food sensitivity, so you should give it a try and see if you find that is a factor in that person's painful menstruation. Dr. Miller, do you have any other thing you would like to share on the whole topic of allergies?
Well, you know, we're talking about things that I really have never had a problem with, one of which is poison ivy, poison oak, or poison sumac. I'm not allergic to these things, so if you have it, call me over. I'll pull it off your trees. I'll take it out of your gardens because it just doesn't affect me. But for some people, like my mother, if she's downwind from where they're burning it, she'll get poison ivy. It's got this volatile oil that gets onto the skin. It can cause an extreme allergic reaction to a human body. Animals don't get it, but this is another problem. Your dog or your cat's out there playing and it comes home and you pet the dog or the cat, the oil's on the dog or the cat's skin, you get it onto your skin, and now you have it. That's a major problem. Now, for everything noxious out there, I believe that God has a solution right in the area. If you find where poison ivy is growing and you know that you've come in contact with it, there's usually in the area some jewelweed or some Virginia creeper. You just take this and you take some of the leaves and you crush them up in your hands and rub some of the moisture from these leaves over the area where you have come in contact. Now you want to, if you've been in contact with poison ivy and you are allergic to it, wash yourself right away. You can use some basically yellow detergent is very good, or just some good detergent, and you flush your skin, wash it well, flush it well is very nice for that. Sometimes we get the itching. You don't want to scratch it. You can use oatmeal baths. You can put oatmeal in a sock and put it in water and sort of daub that on there. Saline on claws wrapped around there is very good. Aloe vera is astringent. That's very good. You can make some golden seal paste is very good. A few simple things you can do, but I guess the best thing you can do, Dr. Thrash, is don't get it. And if you have it near your home, get rid of it and you won't have the problem.
Yes, avoidance is, again, one of the best ways to deal with an allergy. Another thing is to make certain that your home is free from all of these kinds of allergenic substances as well as you can make it. Our divine designer has also designed nature so that it can be our helpers in these things. And I hope you will learn to love our Heavenly Father more because of a study on allergies.